Oh, about the timing and the frequency. So, yeah, I think there's the main maybe beach area focus on is trying to get that recurring revenue, right? We know that people aren't going to do this for 2 years straight. It's probably going to, we've seen, you know, the 4 to 7 month duration is the strong one that kind of covers that those upfront costs of acquiring those customers. On the other hand, totally have heard comments like what you've made where we'd say, hey, you can buy a once-off, onesie, twosies. You know, maybe we don't give you as much bundled savings if you're not doing a subscription, but if you're thinking, I want to talk about digital wellness, coping with failure, we're not going to hold you back to buy those 2 out of the gate, and if that's all you want to buy, that's fine. But certainly trying to promote a model where they're coming back to us is key.
I may have missed it, but who else is doing this, and why is your product better?
Sure, main competitors might be like KiwiCo or Love Every. Main differentiators, talk about like topics, it's mostly STEM.
Thank you, Austin. All right. Forgetting something? Oh, yeah. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Achsha.
Good morning. So, we're halfway through. Just to show of hands, how many people had to call for directions to get here today? Okay, nobody. When was the last time you printed a map for a road trip? Nobody. Cool. Who still uses traveler's checks? Okay, that might be a little too old school for some folks in the room. Now, I bring that up because the reason I'm dressed like a school bus is because I have a business called TripSlip. My name is Achsha, and I am obsessed with the idea that experiential learning could be so much better. So, the problem that we're addressing is that field trips are hard to coordinate and manage, not just for teachers, but for the vendors who work with teachers. Teachers have to coordinate with them, back and forth with phone calls and emails to be able to put together a field trip. For vendors, they have to worry about how are we going to get paid? Is it the school district that's going to do it? Is it the teachers that are going to do it? How does this money come to us? Canceled events, outstanding balances, all of this makes it very, very sloppy. So, the solution, there should be an app for that. And I hear it all the time. Nobody's doing that? No, nobody's doing it. We have a wraparound solution for field trips that includes teachers, parents, vendors, and providers so that you can book a field trip in less than 5 minutes on the teacher side, but where a parent can fill out their permission slip and pay if they want to, but it's free. So, nobody's doing this? Sure, there are people, you can sign something on your phone with a squiggly and a screenshot. There's nothing proprietary about being able to sign and pay for something because we all have Venmo and PayPal. So our competitors are only doing those things. Nobody's thinking about the entire experience. So when I talk about the advantage that exists for me, I've done 216 customer discovery interviews. That includes 116 parents and 80 teachers. So I'm also a bus driver. I've had a commercial driver's license for almost 10 years and I have 1.5 million commercial miles under my belt. On top of that, I was a sales director for a transportation company for 3 years. And I was a sales coordinator for the second largest cultural institution in Michigan, the Detroit Historical Society. That's where the idea for TripSlip was born. So, this is what it looks like right now. We're not an app, but this $25,000 will help us to create the beta versions of the app and to develop the web platform in a smarter way. So people can fill out a TripSlip, free on both ends, free to create, free to fill out. You can book your bus, book your venue, chaperone. You guys can read, I'm not gonna read it off to you. So our market right now, just what we're concentrating on is Southeast Michigan, because there are 615,000 plus students in Southeast Michigan. The average student takes 3 field trips per year. So, how we monetize is by charging when people want to pay digitally. It's free to fill out a TripSlip, it's free to send one back, but we want to charge a convenience fee, which is less than an ATM fee, to be able to pay for your child's field trip on your phone because it's so much easier to use a card. So, the opportunity, again, exists from just field trips. We're not talking about after-school activities, extracurricular activities, sports, none of that. Just that small portion is those field trips. And it, again, excludes homeschool, private school, sports, and extracurricular. On the vendor side, it's an arbitrage model. So hey, get listed on our app, we'll do the booking for you. If you're charging $6, charge us $4, we make that $2 difference up. And we have a package solution for teachers that they can go on the app, choose the grade, choose the subject, be able to do that. Okay. We are in business in generating revenue. Here are some of our current customers. The team is me, but I do have fractional C-suite support, which includes a fractional COO and a fractional CTO. But again, I talked about my credentials a bit. I'm a professional chaperone and mother of two. My kids were in one of the previous slides. Use of funds, the beta app of the web app beta version, C-suite, paying the C-suite folks, and then our monthly expenses paid through the year, marketing and advertising. This is our timetable. I'll just leave that up here so you guys can get an idea of where we're headed. Thank you guys so much for letting me talk to you about TripSlip.
Great presentation, always appreciate the energy. So how does a sale happen? Who do you need to convince, that the green light turns on, and does that drive adoption through the entire chain? I understand the vendor side, I understand the school side, but can you tell me how it plays out?
Sure, so most teachers have no rubric when it comes to putting together a field trip. That's why so few are taken every year. It's completely left up to them. So they have to decide where they're going, when they're going, how much it'll cost, put together a budget, put together a permission slip. So it starts with the teacher. When the teacher goes online, they put together their side of the TripSlip, they then get a unique QR code, bit.ly link, or a printable PDF for people who are still analog, and they can give that out to parents. So now the parents get that on their Class Dojo or in their email or sent through a text message, they can fill it out and it's stored in a digital folder or wallet. That's where all the options are opened up to. So a parent can say, hey, I want to be a chaperone. I also want to pay for this. I want to buy my kid a lunch. I want to be able to get their souvenir package. My younger daughter has special needs. She can't tell you that she's gluten-free and allergic to yellow dye number 5. So if I don't pack her lunch, I run the risk of something happening to her on a field trip, and we want to eliminate that.
Is there anything that could block an individual teacher in a school from adopting the platform? Is there any sort of workflow or process or something that the administration would not be okay with a teacher making that decision on their own?
Because there's no rubric and it is left up to the teacher, the administration can tell them what they want to see happen. So there are some schools who are using some of our competitors, but again, it doesn't offer a wraparound solution. So they can hodgepodge or pick what they want. They don't necessarily have to do a permission slip, but that's where it starts. If they say, hey, we really just are interested in the field trip part. Can you help us find a bus? All of these things are a la carte. So it's up to them how deep they want to go or how little they want to use.
Given the wraparound nature of the solution, could you speak to the interoperability with any other systems like a school might be using?
So there are a lot of some of the competitors that we listed up there have been purchased by other organizations that are being adopted by school districts. Again, because they can use pieces of it, ideally you want to use the entire thing because it makes it simple. I don't have to worry about collecting the money, or I don't have to worry about this. The convenience is in, the money's in my digital wallet, I don't have to collect it, I can send it over to the transportation company, I can send it to the vendor, and it's a done deal. Versus, I'll have to use this thing with the school and then still do TripSlip. I hope that answers your question.
I guess, if there's a module that they're using through TripSlip, like how does that integrate with, legacy or whatever other system that they're already using at school?
It doesn't have to, and it wouldn't interfere with whatever they're using. It could be ancillary or just additional.
So what barriers have you come up with? So great job on getting this up and running, and that in and of itself is hard. So you got customers, but when you're going out and talking to teachers today, what's the number 1 and 2 things that they're telling you no?
In the customer discovery interviews, the biggest no that we heard was, why isn't it up yet? Can I use it today? But the other one was, can you help me with coordinating the trips? That's where the idea of getting together a database and being able to truly point and play and be able to put together a field trip right away. So the biggest thing was, okay, I can get a bus pretty easy. You know, it's not that big of a deal to have to, you know, collect these permission slips. It's kind of a hassle, but how do I do all of this together? The thing that I saw when I was working at the Detroit Historical Society is that we would have trips that were paid for by the district. We pay for the buses, and the trip is booked. We have a docent and we're waiting, but they don't show up because there weren't enough signed permission slips. So we know that 60% of Detroiters access the internet through their phone. So by giving them something that immediately allows them to get it, we don't have to worry about these unreliable couriers, aka children.
So the pandemic was highly disruptive, not only to education, but also to in-person events. So could you give us a sense of how the market for field trips in general has rebounded?
It's booming. It is 100% booming. Kids are itching to get out of the classroom, and teachers are happy to take them off virtual. They're tired of screens, they want to do things in person, and they're just doing the pandemic provisions. There's still some contact tracing, and even in the beginning, when this started, TripSlip began as a contact tracing. We pivoted to be a contact tracing app because nobody was doing field trips. Hence the 216 customer discovery interviews, getting ready for things to come out of the pandemic.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, quickly, one last question. So, you mentioned that teachers would do more field trips if it was easier, but there's a cost to doing a field trip.
We'll talk afterward.
Okay.